The Michigan Renaissance Festival is about to begin. Tell us which OC TV show you're watching and we'll send you a limited number of tickets while supplies last. Just send a self-addressed stamped envelope to 1775 North Lapeer Road and we'll get them back to you. See you there. Huzzah!
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Terry, do you want to do roll call, please?
Frost?
Here.
Talbot?
Yes.
Bailey?
Here.
Dolan is absent, and Basardi?
Here.
Make a motion to excuse Eric Dolan.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Helma, supported by Frost. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approval of the agenda, and we're going to move
The minutes?
the minutes, the August 14th minutes, down to number 11. And I think that's it, unless anybody else has got any.
There's no other changes. I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Helma, supported by Frost. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We have no presentations, no public hearings. Call to the public on non-agenda items. Okay, hearing none, we'll move into the consent agenda. A, the receive and file items.
Madam President, I make a motion to receive and file consent agenda A, items 1 and 2.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Frost, supported by Helmuth. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And we move down to B.
If there's no questions, I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items B, 2, and 3, including the bills in the amount of $101,630.35.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Helmuth, supported by Frost. A roll call, please. Start with the 9-1 there.
Basardi?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Dolan, absent. Helmut?
Yes.
And Frost?
Yes.
Okay, unfinished business. Second reading and adoption of the proposed snow and ice ordinance. Joe, do you want to do anything?
I just wanted to, it's back on here as we had a discussion when the three of us were here, or 3 council members were here. It was a question whether or not the 2 that voted in favor of that was enough to adopt it. And per legal counsel and some discussions, he felt it was better that the quorum, a majority of the board adopted it versus a majority of the quorum. So that's why it came back to council today.
I was a little surprised at that. I assumed that it had passed legitimately.
Is that because it was an ordinance?
I think so.
It seems to me like because it's an ordinance, it's got to be, I think that's what the kicker is. It's because it's an ordinance, it's got to be majority of the council, not of those present.
I believe so. Certain things in the zoning act, and I'll call for that in the planning act as well, because they're related to ordinances and variances. But I couldn't find anything hard and fast about that, so we referred to legal counsel, and that's where he came down on the matter.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading and adoption of the proposed snow and ice removal ordinance.
I'd like to discuss it a little.
Okay.
I'm still
You
opposed.
have a second for that,
Oh.
Dave, then?
I'll second it.
Discuss.
I'll
Okay.
second it. I still think that the fines are excessive. There's several more than one section of this. We got section 58-101 through 104 and subsections A through E and 105 and 106. If you add everything up, and even see that there's a maximum fine of 500, and you could conceivably have five violations all in one day, that's $2,500, just one day. I think it's excessive.
Shovel your sidewalk.
Well,
Because I
yeah.
think there's excessive snow on the sidewalks. And I don't think the average person here is gonna get tickets. Not that they're not gonna be waiting outside your door at 7 o'clock. Oh, he didn't show up. We're gonna give him a ticket. It's, you haven't shoveled, and now there's this much slush on your sidewalk that the kids are falling in on their way to school because they all walk to the bus stop or they walk to school. Shovel your sidewalk. It's not any different. It's really not any different than the old ordinance. They've changed some times. They've tweaked some things. You've always been required to shovel your sidewalk, and yet people don't. Shovel your sidewalk. Shovel your driveway. Shovel your neighbor's sidewalk.
I'm not arguing with that part. I'm questioning the $500 times 5 offenses which you could commit all in one day. And
How could you commit 5 offenses in one day?
count them up. Section 58-102, that's one. That's the one where you didn't do it soon enough. Then down here, section 58-104,
They put you in
putting
the
stuff on the
road.
roadway. Then 104B, going too close to a fire hydrant. 104C is the safety vision thing. 104D is, C and D are essentially identical. It'd be hard to violate both of them independently. But a lot of it is based on your definition of what is the definition of accumulated. I figured out what accumulated means. Basically, it doesn't make much sense, but accumulated basically means stuff on your sidewalk. If you shovel snow from your flower garden, which fell last week out into the street, you don't violate any of this except for one item, 104D. So you got to read the technicalities, and whatever you argue against me, I'll accept, fine. But I go by what this says, not what you say orally.
I say if you shovel snow from your flower garden into the road, you should get a $2,500 fine.
Well, it's
Well, I
bizarre, but
Yeah, I think most reasonable people understand the ordinance, and I don't know as anybody is going to commit 5 offenses in one day.
well, I go by what the printed
You got to
text
have
says.
no brain power working if you're going to do some of those that people know are against the law,
Well,
Dave.
whoever wrote this printed text had no brain power working.
Well, I think they did, and I think that, like I explained to some people this weekend, we only have an ordinance officer who works 2 or 3 days a week. He is not going to get out there with a tape measure Monday morning or whatever day he works at 8 o'clock in the morning and run around town to every residence and every business with his tape measure if we had a snowfall. You have to be reasonable, and you have to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Practical. That this is not going to happen. There are people who are habitual violators, and they deserve to be fined for this. And it's not $500 the first ticket.
Well, you got to read
Get a warning
it. You got to
at
read
first,
it.
Dave.
You got to read it.
Well, then
The word
vote no.
warning, the word
It's-
warning is not on this.
Like I say, I don't think the Village of Oxford is going to run around and do things. And if you have a problem with it, then you need to shovel your sidewalk. Don't shovel around the fire hydrant. How are the the fire department sends out notices not to do that. Any reasonable person would not be doing that. any reasonable person is not going to be shoving their snow out into the middle of the street, so others pound it down.
It's
I think you have to
105.
use your senses.
The subsection 105 says, civil fine of not less than 150 or more than 500, and that's for the first day. 500 for the
Like
first
I
day.
said, Dave, if you're not shoveling your sidewalk, then you deserve to get a ticket.
And then in that same section, on the second day, it says 200. The third day, no, it's not the third day. It's for additional offenses in a 3-month period. There's 500. So there's 500 in two places. In one place it says, oh, any 3-month period, this is the habitual offender thing. Yeah, it goes up to 500. But in the first part of this same section, you could be assessed $500 the first day. So it doesn't make any sense.
Well, if you're not shoveling if you shovel in your sidewalk, then you won't have a problem. If you're not, Dave, then you deserve a ticket. That's my feeling. This is not aimed at Joe Schmo, who happens to miss a day that it snows and he doesn't shovel his sidewalk. It is aimed, in my personal feeling, against the people who go 2 and 3 months without shoveling a bit of sidewalk.
I hear what you're saying, and I agree
And
with
when you've
everything you
got
say.
mothers with strollers and small children walking out in Burdick Street and walking along Washington, I think that we need to do something.
I hear everything that everybody says, and I agree with what everybody says, but I go by the printed text. And
Okay,
I'm not
so
going
are you
to
gonna
approve, I'm not going to approve this printed text.
Are you going to support Mo's motion or not?
Madam President?
I think
Yep.
he did, I thought.
I seconded the motion, because I wanted to discuss.
Okay, but are you going to let that stand?
Yes.
Okay.
My
Joe?
second stance.
So interestingly enough, I agree with all of you. And I do agree with Mr. Bailey that especially for the first offense, the $150, I believe, is extreme. And this comes from not only the testimony we heard at the public hearing from some of our residents, although they were from the same household, testimony or dialogue that I've had with some residents in my neighborhood that they thought that the $150, from the $15 in the existing ordinance to the $150, that jump, and up to 500 is quite the spread. I would be more comfortable with a first offense as either a courtesy ticket and then a second offense, $150, and or the first offense is $50. But, you know, it's very likely that, I mean, this, if we're not going to, if there's so much flexibility in the ordinance that we're not going to enforce this for 2 or 3, weeks, if it's really for those habitual offenders, then I struggle to understand the timeline on this as well. Originally, when we started talking about this, it was specifically a conversation that was brought up via correspondence from our DDA director about the downtown. And there are some habitual offenders in the downtown. I would feel that maybe $150, and I know we've had this conversation with Mr. Davis, and not having a carve-out for the businesses separately, but perhaps it is based on the zoning, residential or commercial. $150 for a first events for a commercial business is one thing, but $150 plus for probably some of our most vulnerable citizens in terms of the ability of being able to shovel that, I believe is just out of reach for
Pick a
many of our
number.
residents.
But if you,
I know, we can pick a number, and I
Pick a
know
number.
we can kick this horse
if we
around
have
for,
to, if we have to hire somebody to go do it, or our DPW
Right.
has to go do it, there is a cost.
that's right.
The
and that-
village should be able to
and-
recover
and
that cost.
According to this, that cost is,
Plus costs and other
separate.
things.
yes.
It's
Plus, so
separate.
so Mr. Bailey is right that it could in fact be more than what is stated here in terms of the fines in section 105. If you're a habitual offender and you've now on your third offense, we're talking some big bucks plus the cost that will be recouped by the village for that removal. So I guess my point is I think the current violations in section 58, 105 are too high.
Pick a number. Pick a number. What do you want for the first offense? You pick the number.
I would be more comfortable with the first offense of $50.
Pick what's the second offense?
Second offense, $150.
And then we go up to the 500.
Perhaps so.
If 3 times in the third time in a month.
Because $50 should be your wake-up call.
Do you have a problem with 50 and
if it's not-
150, Sue? Plus they have to pay the cost of any costs or sanctions.
But I have a comment about habitual. There could be such a thing as a habitual slip and fall person, and that don't make no sense. If you slip and fall and you break a bone, then somebody says, oh, but you're not habitual faller. Well, no, I got a broken bone the very first time I slipped. So you got to take it seriously from the word go.
I'm not sure that $50 is serious enough.
I think if they get a 50 and that's not serious enough, guess what? They're going to get 150 in 2 weeks. And they're going to hit the 500. They're either going to show them or they're going to get the numbers up there.
Well, I got emails, text this winter from people in this room who were complaining about the snow on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So my feeling is, and that's kind of what started this, along with some comments from the DDA, my feeling is that it should stand. Sorry.
I'm okay either
That's my
way.
feeling.
But I think we're beating a dead horse.
I agree.
And let's just pick a number and move on. And I think, if somebody's going to get a ticket, they're either going to get a ticket once or they're going to get a lot of tickets. And it's not going to make a difference. You know, and the code enforcement officer knows he's not going to give a ticket to a 92-year-old woman who didn't get her dress sidewalk shoveled, even though she was probably out there with the first snowflake, because that's how they tend to be. He's going to find a neighbor to do it. Or the neighbors are already doing it.
Right.
Well, I'm willing to go with these smaller numbers, certainly.
It still gets us to the max. It's a compromise.
It does get us to max.
But I feel on that front end, you know, 50 is a heavier fine than the 15 that is currently in existence.
And the expenses incurred by the village are still
can
separate
be-
from those fines.
Correct.
And it may not be every person that gives us a ticket. We may notice it and send them a ticket, but it might be 2 or 3 days before the DPW has time to get there. So they may get out and get it themselves, so they may only incur the fine.
Right.
But in some cases, they'll get the ticket, and then the DPW is available that day, and they can go do it that day. So there's going to be some ebbs and flows to that. It's not always going to be in tandem that this means automatically that, because it all depends. And later on, once this is settled, we do need to work on getting us a list of approved contractors that we have pricing pre-approved for, because the DPW may not always have time and availability to do it. And we want a fallback list to say, all right, rather than waiting a week because someone's hurt, someone's on vacation or whatever, we'll pick, contractor A and send them over there to do it. But that's something we'll do regardless of where you come down on this. We'll work towards that, so we have that pre-approved list going into the winter.
So what are you proposing?
I stand by my motion with the change of the violations being $50 for the first infraction, or no more than the 500,000.
500.
I mean, I like. I'm going big.
500,000.
Big
Where
bucks
did
no
that-
whammies.
Yeah, really.
$500
Yeah.
and 150 for the second, and then up to the 500 for the 3 in a month.
3 in a month, or 3 in 3 months, I think. I think it was 3
For
months.
any additional
three
So
months
it's not
time period,
up
right.
to, it's 500, correct?
Shall automatically be set at 500 for additional offenses in any 3-month time period. So that's not flexible. The fee goes to 500 if you
Correct.
offend additional offenses in a 3-month time period. That's how it's
After
worded.
the second offense.
Right.
After
So
the
it'd be
second.
5.
Yeah.
So after 3 months from the first one, the clock resets, and you could go back to a first offense if 3 months have expired and you haven't gotten the third one.
Sure. Yeah.
So basically, you're just replacing the 150 with 50, the 200 with 150.
Correct.
Yes.
And that's plus fines, correct?
Yes, if they come into play.
20 plus fines. Those are the fines.
Sanctions.
Now,
What's separate
Costs or
is the,
sanctions. I don't know what the sanctions would be, but-
is the covering the
Cost.
village's expenses
cost.
to, covering the
So it's
village's
50
costs.
plus the cost of having it
Plus the
done.
cost, plus 15% for the inspection. And you don't have to inspect the fines. You inspect the way the job was done, right, Joe?
we don't inspect the fine. No, the fines are, they are.
The fines are cut and dried, but whether the job was done right, that's the inspection part.
Right.
Yeah.
My question, as we have a discussion, is we put a public notice out, we had our first reading, and I don't know if we can mend this without going back to square one.
We can.
Okay.
This is second reading, we can still make
Okay.
changes.
All right, so it's 50 plus cost, 150 plus cost, and 500 plus cost.
Madam President, there's a question from the audience.
Just to be clear, that first one, she said, is it not less than 50, but not more than 500? She didn't say a flat 50.
I'm reading it, just as it's written here, it's a civil fine of not less than 50 or more than
Okay,
500,
that's what-
which is just as it's written, but
It's just a flat 50.
no, it's 50 to 100.
There is some
Not less
flexibility
than.
in there.
Right, that it can't be more.
That it can be more than the
That's
50.
what I'm clarifying.
Correct.
The way you said it too, you said 50 plus fine, but it could be more on the first offense. That's what I'm saying.
Just replacing those words, exchanging those amounts with the other amounts.
50 for 150.
If you do
and
3
200
things,
for 150.
you're going to get,
No, but I'm saying, so basically all you're doing is trading the 150 for 50 in the first one, and trading the 200 for 150 in the second.
Yes, but in that first one, there's still a 500 sitting there.
Right, that's what-
I think there's a case where there might be some room for flexibility. You don't hit them with the 500 the first time, even though by reading this, you could.
Sure, we'll be fine if we don't have another ice station.
You think it'd be fine?
We'll get you a copy of it.
all right. Terry, will you do a roll call, please?
Madam President, can you
Yeah.
reread the motion? Is it as amended?
Changing that to that.
Yeah, well, I just have notes here to approve the second reading and adopt the proposed snow removal ordinance number 408, amending the fines to the first offense at $50 plus cost, second 150 plus cost, and third $500 plus cost.
Thank you.
So right now, we have a motion on the floor, and it's been seconded. I'll second the current version of it as well, as stated by our clerk.
Thank you.
And your motion stands, and my second
Yes.
stands? Okay,
Terry, will you do a roll call?
Sure. Bailey?
yes.
Helmuth?
Yes.
Frost?
Yes.
Basarde?
Yes.
And Dolan is absent.
We got something done before the snow flies.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah,
coming
'cause we're
today,
getting
that's for
close.
sure.
It's getting chilly out there.
Okay, new business, consideration of the request for the use of the village garage. Mike?
Good evening, everyone. Chief Mike Stonewall. It's been requested, again, like the high school did, the middle school would like to request the use of our garage for training their students in robotics. The time frame that they want to use it is from mid-October till mid-December, primarily in the afternoon or evenings. They're also covered under the same insurance as the high school was, and we have copies of it in the office. And currently, when the high school used it, they didn't impede any daily use that we had for the garage or anybody else, and they did clean up well after themselves and secure their area. So we found the high school using it was not a problem at all. So middle school got wind of that, and they came to me and looked at the facility, and they're also asking for the same use if they can from mid-October until mid-December. And I've heard rumors of different things for that garage, so I'm not sure if it'll be erect by then, but if it is, they're asking for use of that for the fall.
Yeah, I have a question. When I think of secure the area, I'm thinking more in terms of somebody messing with the kids' stuff rather than the other way around. When you say secure, you mean that their robots, et cetera, will be locked up?
No, they put a platform in there, they take
Yeah.
those things with them, they don't leave those.
They took that with them.
Yeah, they're
So
just setting up a platform to train
it's just the
robotics on.
platform,
Yeah,
basically.
Yes, yeah. And then you got us roaming in and out, you've got DPW around, and we've got cameras out here, so I think it's pretty secure for them to have that platform in the time being. But no, they don't leave any of that equipment.
So when you say secure, it doesn't really mean anything. It's just, there's nothing to secure. It's just a
No, meaning
platform.
secure, meaning that they're not going to leave anything unsecure, they're not
Yeah.
going to leave any of their product or anything out there, I guess that's what I meant.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
sure.
Okay, what's council's pleasure?
Madam President, I move to approve the Oxford Middle School robotics team, the use of the Village Garage for their training of their students from mid-October to mid-December in the afternoon and evenings.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Frost, supported by Helmuth. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, next thing is the zoning amendment for the ZBA.
And Drew's worked on putting this together. I know Mo was at the planning commission. I was there too. Pretty lengthy discussion about it the other night. But he worked on this, so I asked him to speak on it.
It's not a super complicated thing. Planning Commission held a public hearing at their last meeting last Tuesday. Had a discussion about a zoning ordinance amendment to change the number of ZBA members from 6 to 5. 6 was an odd number, and there had been a request to have that looked at. So Planning Commission did. They made a recommendation to change the number from 6 to 5. The planning consultants also recommended some additional language, which is also included in the language I provided for you all. So the recommendation from Planning Commission is to approve this zoning ordinance amendment. Sue, you were there as well, or Mo, if you have any additional comments on that. To go along with this, the Zoning Board of Appeals bylaws are in here, because those will need to be changed to reflect that. And, yeah.
Joe?
It seems in the recommendation that this is a new ordinance amending a section of the zoning ordinance. And just a question out of my naivety of the process, why does this ordinance not require the public meeting, et cetera, that we've had to go through with the other ordinances that we've adopted?
Because the Planning Commission held a public hearing for it.
I
So
see.
they were the
Okay.
first reading.
Awesome, thank you.
I actually have a question that I don't know if anybody here will be able to answer, with the possible exception of Rose, and I know what her answer's going to be. I don't like the way we're numbering our ordinances. We have a codified ordinance, 3-something, and all these amendments were supposed to stay in that ordinance number with just a section number. And now that this is 409, this is an amendment to the zoning ordinance, it should still have the zoning ordinance number. I think we've gotten away from whatever we're doing to number our ordinances properly. I don't want to lose track. So I'm totally for this amendment. We had a long discussion, a crazy discussion about the number of people who should be on the ZBA and which we should do and where they should come from. And 5 is perfect. But I think there's a problem with the numbering system.
That is very possible. I've been going off of I've just been going in succession.
Right.
To be honest, I don't know the codification numbers for the zoning.
Well, the zoning ordinance is actually different than the codified ordinance.
Yeah.
I think it's 307.
Yeah, I was using the next available number, but you could very well be correct, and that's something that we will
Should get a handle on somehow. And I don't know if it needs to be this ordinance, but we might as well get the handle on it soon with an easy ordinance.
So maybe when we make a motion, the motion should refer to an appropriately numbered ordinance, so that means you can do whatever you like as long as it fits,
I'd rather come back with the right number, I think.
So we shouldn't do it right now, in any case. is what you're saying.
That's my opinion. I'm only one of four. If anybody actually cares about what number the ordinance, I just think there's something wrong with it.
Well, how many times has the ZBA met in the last 5 years?
Well, but how many times have the amendments hit in the last 5 years? It's a big number.
What I'm saying is, this may not be terribly urgent to get the numbering right.
Well, they have a meeting in January for their annual meeting. So we have till January.
Well, you got to appoint them, remember, if there's appointments to be
Sure.
made prior to that.
That's
so.
true.
Rose?
I believe we have 4 different ordinances on the book right now. 325, which is the codification of ordinances. 326, which is the motor,
Vehicle.
pardon?
The motor vehicle.
Motor vehicle. And then the zoning ordinance. There's one more than the zoning ordinance comes in there. But there's only 4 different ordinances. And then when you amend the ordinance, you do subsection, whatever it is in the codification. And that's how, when you send it over into Muni Code, they put that in the ordinance, unless you're going to go through it and redo the whole codification of ordinances.
We can worry about that later. I like the amendment, but I think there's a problem with the zoning number if anybody cares.
I'd like to see you find out what it is, because we are underneath the time constraint for our annual meetings and everything coming up. And if anything should happen to that somebody would come before the ZBA, then we need to know how many people are actually the number of people.
I guess
This has been
I'm,
going on for 3 months now.
right. I guess I'm not sure why the objection is to not okaying this tonight, with part of the motion being that the number needs to be corrected or whatever. This is,
As long as somebody words it fine, I don't have an objection to it. But I think we all have to be aware that I think there's a problem with our numbering of our ordinances.
well, there's been a problem with our numbering ordinances, and that's part of what I have discussed with Joe, is that over the course of the last year, there's several things that people don't ask questions, they just barrel forward and do, rather than ask maybe
Well, we
people
were
who have the
told that it's a
information.
resolution number. They're not resolution numbers. The Code of Ordinances has a set number. And then the Zoning Board of Appeals within those Code of Ordinances has its only subsection.
Right, but this, to me, that's a topic for another meeting or another agenda item, rather than we're here tonight to approve the number on the ZBA. As part of the motion, it should be noted that the numbering system needs to be corrected. It's been wrong for quite a while, as Rose and I can attest.
Madam President, does this then mean that the ordinance that we just passed, the number on that one is incorrect as well?
Could be.
I don't know, Bob worked on that one.
I don't think there was a number in that one.
It was 408.
Yeah,
Then yes, it is. I didn't even notice, and I did not use the number.
because that one's not part of the zoning ordinance, so it's going to be a standalone type.
I see. Okay. I'm supportive of this, but I agree with, Councilmember Helmuth that we should be consistent with our system. If there is a system, if there's not a system, then an appropriate system needs to be developed.
This is part of the zoning ordinance, correct?
There is a system.
Yes.
Then I'll make a motion to amend the zoning ordinance as recommended by the Planning Commission, and also amend the Zoning Board of Appeals bylaws to reflect the amendment to the zoning ordinance, reducing the number of required Zoning Board of Appeals members from 6 to 5. I'll support.
So you're doing B and C together?
Yes,
Okay.
if no one has a problem.
I don't.
I don't.
Okay, we have a motion by Hummus, supported by Dave, was that you that
Yes.
did it? Bailey? Let's do a roll call vote on that.
Sardi?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Helmuth?
Yes.
Frost?
Yes.
Dolan? Yes.
Okay, going down to D. Amendment of the Planning Commission bylaws. Drew?
Yeah, when we were going through and looking at the zoning board of appeals bylaws to see how they reconciled with the zoning ordinance, we saw the planning commission bylaws, and the most recent copy that I could find of them did not appear to coincide with the ordinance amendment changing the number of planning commission members from back in 2013. So, brought this up to planning commission, and, recommended some changes to them, which are included in your packet. Basically, just changing the language in the bylaws to reflect the change in composition that was made through that 2013 ordinance. And also some small changes, like they hold 2 meetings a month now instead of only 1, as it says in their bylaws. It's setting the annual meeting for January to coincide with the zoning board of appeals, so that it's after the appointment process in November from village council. And those are the primary changes. So it's just getting it cleaned up, and then we'll be able to have these all in the book and make sure that we keep up to date on them better than had been done in the past.
The planning commission also spent way too much time on this, and I really like the changes. The changes are good. Just saying.
Madam President, just one question. Is it necessary that they meet twice a month?
Not all the time.
Okay.
But at times when there's a lot of times when a site plan gets going, you get
Right.
the first one, you have to meet the deadlines. And you don't meet the deadlines because you got to do it within 15 days, and then 14 days till the leader comes out. So a lot of times the second meeting helps you get things moving.
And many times, one or both planning commission meetings get canceled, so they're
Oh, I
pretty
see.
flexible on
Oh,
it.
okay.
A lot of times, yeah, you cancel them both, and then the next month you'll have both.
Okay.
I have developers have, and people who have things on the agenda have noted that it's nice to at least have it more often.
I see.
So-
Okay. One. Hold on a second.
Council's pleasure.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendments to the planning commission bylaws.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Hummus, supported by Frost. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you, Chair.
And that was unanimous. At least it sounded so.
Okay, the next thing, consideration of the bids for storm drain. Don?
Good evening, Council. Don Bradley, Public Supervisor. As you all are probably aware, the parking lot approach going into the northeast parking lot behind John Burt's has become in much disrepair. We have a storm drain that's in the curb line there that is starting to collapse. We've made some temporary repairs over the years. It is made of red brick. It's starting to fail. This proposal is to replace that catch basin with a precast basin, redo the curb line, the curbing, and reconcrete the entire approach, and do a little bit of asphalt work in the parking lot area and in the road area where the work's going to be disturbed. There's a big dip in the asphalt as you hit the stop bar right behind John Burt's, so we're looking at taking that area out. The DDA did meet on August 20th. I did meet with the director of the DDA. He did take that before his board, and they did approve to help with this project of an amount of $7,500. So I'm recommending that we move forward and get this project done before the winter.
Don, does that include the restriping of is that what you call the stop bar
Stop
or
bar.
whatever on East Burdick?
I didn't put it in the bid, but we can, the stop sign's gonna be there.
Well, nobody stops there anyway, so,
Stop bars are
but
worn off anyways, because it's underwater most of the time.
we're going to put that back in bold. Okay, what's council's pleasure?
Madam President, I move to approve a contract with SiteWorks Services LLC for the storm drain replacement, curb replacement, and parking lot approach replacement on East Burdick Street for a cost not to exceed $14,575.
I'll second that.
That's the first line.
I have a comment.
Okay.
Read that.
I spoke to one of the contractors that called, and I know when I spoke to Mr. Dolan earlier today, that he had been in touch with one of them, and there was some questions about, well, are these all apples and oranges, apples to oranges, or whatever, comparisons, and there may be differences in the way these guys have described their work. Well, we kind of leave it up to them on a job of this size to tell us, what do you need to fix this? How much footage you need to go back to make it secure, to fix the sinkhole and stuff like that. The only way to ensure that you would have everybody exactly bidding the same square foot of concrete and the same square foot of asphalt would be to have it engineered and have it spec'd out and stuff like that. And yes, that would accomplish that, but at this size of a project, that's kind of cost prohibitive, I think. So we do our best, and Don meets with the guys. I wasn't involved with this at all. So if you hear something like that, somebody might say, but I was going to do this more than that person, so therefore my price is a little, should be considered differently. And I heard that, but it's hard to do in a project of this size. We aren't going to go and get engineers and spend money on engineering to go and spec out and make sure everyone's exactly the same square footage and stuff on a project of this size. It's just kind of cumbersome and may not be even cost effective, so.
This is basically a removal and replacement of the exact, what's there now.
Yeah.
We're not changing anything. I mean, you might have, somebody might say they need 500 square feet of asphalt removal. Well, we're not.
That's up to them.
Yeah. It's purely a removal and replacement of the existing footprint.
Okay.
I have a question. Are any of these local contractors?
As far as village contractors?
Well, we have our bidding specifications where if they get a certain discount if they're Oxford, they get a certain discount if they're Oakland County.
Yep. And I included that in the package, so you guys would have it.
Yeah, I believe SiteWorks is out of Metamora, correct me if I'm wrong. Birmingham is out of Oxford Township. I'm not familiar with the other two, but it seemed as though Birmingham Seal Coat, even with the percentage for local, was still
outside of that balance.
Outside of that, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Did I say we had a motion by Frost, supported by Basardet? Terry, do you want to do a roll call, please?
Helmut?
Yes.
Frost?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Sardi?
Yes.
Dolan absent.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Don't let it happen.
Okay, the next thing, consideration of contract renewal for well monitoring. Don, is that?
No, I dealt with a gentleman from Northern Well and Pump. This came to me the day of the last meeting because they were thinking that they were on the same schedule as the township and were actually 1 year different. And so they were going to maybe do some testing for us, and they realized their contract had expired. But again, it came to me the day of the meeting, so we weren't going to consider it or try to get it on last meeting. Looked into this, talked to Don about it, talked to Bob Davis about it, who reviewed some of those testings. Everything seemed to be in order, and they were looking to extend the contract for another 3 years at the same cost of the previous contract, which from my understanding was bid out at the time, and that's how they were awarded the contract last time. And so based on that, my recommendation was to extend it again to Northern Well and Pump for the same price as the previous contract.
Any questions? Joe?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve the contract extension for 3 years for environmental technical support and laboratory services with Northern Well and Pump.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Frost, supported by Helma. Terry, do you want to do a roll call, please?
Frost?
Yes.
Helmut?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Sardi?
Yes.
Bowman? Yes.
Okay, next thing we have is consideration for bids for temporary financial accounting. Terry, do you want to, or Joe?
Yeah, for those who weren't here last month, I know there was some discussion, and Terry reported to council some of the things she was finding and working on, trying to shore up some of the accounting practices and stuff in the village, and that's what kind of talked her, or prompted her to get in touch with the auditors. Of course, they were already setting up the next audit anyways, and so Terry had some work to do and look into that with the auditors to see what we can do to make things better. Why don't you tell us what you found?
Last month I reported to you that our audit was scheduled for October 22nd, and that has since, because of scheduling conflicts, been moved to October 2nd, so that's been moved up. I have called a lot of references and people who have, actually you have some in front of you. I gave you 3 quotes from 3 different firms, and it says representative clients. I spoke with the Village of Holly, who had a similar situation as here. They had a turnover in staff, and the treasurer took over that position. And they had some issues where Plant Moran came in, looked at the system, helped with the process, streamlined the process and the system, the BS&A, do-tos, do-froms, all of that. And they're very happy. She couldn't say enough good things about them, and they are now their auditors as well. I talked to the Village of Beverly Hills. That, actually, she was the Director of Finance, is a CPA, was private and public practice. Said her first year at the Village of Beverly Hills was hell. That was her words. And with a lot of the same issues. And she came with a lot of experience. She said that it was very confusing. There were a lot of things that had to be straightened out. Even with her credentials, she had assistants. They had Plant Moran come in 3 days in advance of their audit to straighten out some things because, your prior year has to be closed. You have to have your items reconciled. And I reported to you last month that we don't have last year reconciled. There are unreconciled items, and I haven't had time to spend, to find where they may be. And Lori certainly wasn't able to do it in the time she was here. So what's left is on my plate now. But it's things that happened prior to me coming here, so it makes it a little more complicated. And I've had exposure to a lot of this, done a lot of this, the journal entries, which I want you to understand, the work is being done. The journal entries that go along with our bill pays and our accounts payable and all of that, that's all being taken care of now. It's being done. But I'm talking about other items that go back into the past, and those are the things I'm concerned about. And I think this is a good time for us to bring somebody in, take a look at what we have. I don't think I should be, or anybody should be doing a bunch of journal entries after you do an accounts payable run. The system is built to handle that and to disperse the expenses into the proper departments without having to do additional work to make that happen. And that's very labor intensive. So the quotes that you have before you are through 3 very reputable companies. I called other references as well. And the availability of Plant Moran is September 5th. The availability of Raymond Robson is the 10th of September, and I don't have anything from Manor Costerson as far as their availability goes. Plant Moran seems to have the lowest quote of the three, and the highest recommendation from people who have used their service. So I think that's it in a nutshell. And something that Joe said to me really struck a note, and that was that, the budget, when he came and had to find a way to present that budget that made sense, that you could understand, that he could understand, was quite an undertaking. What I do in accounting are the mechanics that feed that budget. That's where those numbers come from. That's where that's created. The work that I do provides that information. So now what you can see is that that's what led to your messy budget before, and we're still using the same accounting practices, but he's got the budget now in a different format that's cleaner and more, it's easier to understand. You can see all of the budgeted amounts. It's not 40 pages long. And then that's what I like to accomplish. I would like to finish what you started with bringing Lori in and the person before her, and Evan, the prior interim manager, also had recommended this service. I found out by chance, one of the people that I contacted, he had also spoken with and was looking at doing the same thing. So I think it's the right direction to go in, and I don't think we should wait. And I don't think, these people are busy people, and they're not going to be available. So I would appreciate it. The sooner we can act on this, the better it would be for us and for them to work this into their schedule.
And let me just touch base on one of the questions when I was speaking to Eric Dolan today. What kind of a time frame are they looking? They're looking at, they might be in for a couple of times in a week, for a few weeks, and then a few more days. It's not like a long-term ongoing contract. They will work with the amount that we have, do it the best they can, put a system together for us. One of the things I did look into is where in the budget would we have it. There was some funds set aside in the clerk's budget for training, the $1,500. Initially, Terry thought, well, I have that. I would prefer to use it for myself, but if we have to use that for some of this, she'd be willing to do so. But then I remembered, I went back and looked. I budgeted the full amount when we were doing our budget in the spring because we didn't know where we were going to end up with in the clerk salary range. So the full amount of the 60 was put in. So obviously, we have a little cushion in that in the clerk's department already. So it's possible we could do this work without even affecting or increasing the budget from where we began with. So at least that part is helpful to know that there's already some money in that could be used for that. And I'm sure you have some questions.
I'm trying to be nice. Oh,
Well, I have no questions because I have sat down and talked with Terry a couple weeks ago about just how things were going. And the village has been in dire straits for quite some time. And we have new management here. And I think that it's time that things got straightened out and done the right way. It's no fault to Lori. Lori was put in a situation where she came into a mess and then had the audit that she had to work on for several months, and that got set back several times because we weren't prepared for it. And now we've turned around and hired Terry, who is going to virtually be in the same position. She hires in, and a month or so later, we're back at the audit again. I'm tired of the village being in this position constantly, and I just think we need to bite the bullet and take care of it. That's my opinion.
Is this going to be a big enough bullet? Or in 4 months, are we going to be approving another $7,500 like every 3 months we did with Lori? I just want this suck of money to go away.
Well, I think Lori that was her salary. That's your complaint with her, the salary. Mm-hmm. We didn't set aside any special money for Lori to get any training or to hire an additional person in to take care of the financial end of it. That was her salary.
It was never mentioned. It was just keep renewing her contract. Everything's going to be good. And I just think If we do the 7,500, that's it. That's it. We're out of money. We're out of money. Our financials are not brain surgery. We're not that big a village. It can be done. We did it with a small staff for years. I know your staff's a little smaller, but you're not doing all the things that we did at that time, so you don't necessarily need that big a staff. This makes me very angry, and that's all I'm going to say.
Joe?
Madam President, do we have a set timeline for this? Like, do we know when it will be, a firm date of when this could be ending? And then is the 7,500 the not to exceed, or is there some flexibility on that? Maybe 5,000 as a not to exceed, and see where that gets us. And also the third or fourth part of this comment is, what we received from Plant Moran does seem maybe a little vague. So my understanding is that they're going to review the BSNA system, audit preparation, and accounting assistance. So really looking at the system as opposed to the day-to-day, which is what Terry is working on as the day-to-day. This is looking at holistic. So I know that's kind of a long comment with a few questions in there, but I'm happy to repeat anything.
Well, I would also argue that Plant Moran might not be the lowest bidder. If anybody thinks they're the lowest bidder, they're probably not.
Well, can I respond?
Go ahead.
Plant Moran and the company, the other two companies that were cited, are highly specific to doing this. It's a regular ongoing practice that they have a proven track record. You were upset with paying Lori the amount of money that you paid her, and yet I've talked to a person who was a CPA herself and had private and public sector experience, and she had to have Plant Moran come in for 3 days prior to her audit to assist with the things that were going on because of how tightly wound that ball gets. And you just have to start peeling things back, and it's very difficult to understand. They've been down this road. They know what they're looking for. They don't waste the time trying to figure it out. They come up with a plan. And I don't, when I first got the list, the hair on the back of my neck went up a little bit too, because those names come with the premium, but you're paying for their expertise. And if you truly want to get it straightened out, you've been glossing over this for years now, and you've had an extended period of neglect and a complete changeover in staff. There's really literally nobody I can go to and get my questions answered when I want to find out about the different cash accounts and the different funds, and there's like 37 of them. Some of them are defunct, some of them are still around but not really being used. And we're trying to consolidate funds, and all of these things, the way the system is set up, they impact other areas in your budget, or I'm sorry, in your financial information. Even posting interest last week when I was reconciling accounts, because of the way it's spread in certain funds, was not working out, and so I'm posting and reversing and looking at the numbers because I'm looking for a balance and it's not there, and I'm like, why is that? It's very time consuming. I want to make sure it's done right, and I don't think it's any fault of Lori's either. I think she did an excellent job straightening out what she did and getting it to the point that she is at. But our office, you think we're not that busy, and then you did more back then, but there are weeks where 2 days I don't get back to any work because I'm answering phones, I'm doing work orders, I'm taking bill payments. There's a whole bunch of things that are going on in the office, and we don't have the staff to do those things, so we all do it. Joe does it, Drew does it, I do it. And that was part of Lori's problem too. You paid her a lot of money, but you also had her doing things that she probably shouldn't have been doing and should have been concentrating more on just that aspect that you hired her for.
Back to Joe's question about the quantifying this and an endpoint. We could go to them and say, here's $5,000. Give us do a little bit of work, show us the progress, do a little more work, show us some progress, and see where we're at the end of that 4 or 6 week period, whatever that is. It's they said they'll work with any amount you have to try to do what they can. you know, if we went to them and said, this is all we have, is the 7,500 that's left in that account, or the cushion in that account, I think they could do an adequate amount for us.
Okay.
Rose?
If I'm not mistaken, the GFOA has now changed different accounting numbers.
State of Michigan Chart of Accounts?
Yes.
Yes, that's coming down the pike as well. Not completed and mandated yet, they put it off a year.
It's not mandated yet, but it
But
is
it's
coming
coming.
down. Are
But
they
it-
going to be looking at that as well?
Yes.
Because that would be a big undertaking to have that, you know, if you were able to
Yes.
roll that in there and get it taken care of.
Because BSNA works with so many communities in the state, and so they're having to work with every community that they work with. Is like 90% of the townships in the state, so they have to make that change and make it, roll it out to everybody.
They also have other states that they're doing, and they
Right.
need to concentrate on Michigan.
Right.
And
So the state of
I think
Michigan,
that's where Plant Moran
Yep.
would be a good,
and that's something at the state level is happening to everybody.
right.
And I think you have to understand too, there's like a dominoes effect here, because the accounting practices or my daily things are going to be impacted by what they see. Because I'll tell you what, I think we should get rid of the do-tos and do-froms, and that's a daily practice here. So as they go through this process and look at what needs to be taken care of immediately, what needs to be reconciled for the audit, those things are, it's going to impact other areas, including the chart of accounts and all the stuff that we do.
Joe?
Do I recall correctly from our audit presentation that the firm that did our audit, this was one of their recommendations?
That's correct.
Yes.
And to one of the points that you mentioned, Mo, for Plant Moran, the staff accounting at the 120 range is the person that we do plan on having out here, not the principal. That's
I
the
don't
person.
think you're gonna have a choice.
Well,
I don't think we have a choice in this. I mean, I think our backs are up to getting swollen. We don't really have a choice. We got to get our accounting. I'm just not happy about it. I'm very angry about it. But they're going to tell you, they're going to give you 120, and half of them are going to be at the 200. I'm just saying, they're not going to send you the cheapest person on block to do this. Is my opinion. We'll see what happens. I don't actually care who does it. I think our backs against the wall. We got to spend the $7,500, and it better not show up in 4 more months. We need another $7,500 because we don't have another $7,500.
What's council's pleasure?
I make a motion. I hear Plant Moran. I have to change the way I was going to word that because it wasn't going to sound nice. To review our current accounting practices and make the recommendations to get our accounts and our processes in order for our audit and for ongoing, for a fee not to exceed $7,500.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion by Thomas, supported by Frost. Terry, do you want to do a roll call, please?
Sure. Frost?
Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Sardi?
Yes.
Helmut?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, council. And next, I'm sorry.
Thank you, council.
Let's talk trees.
Yeah, Donnie, let's do trees
I have some
now.
beautiful pictures of trees in my bag.
Unfortunately, we are going to be cutting down, not planting.
As you may recall, back in May, I came forward with a list of trees, and we had active tree experts come in and remove a substantial amount of trees for us that were diseased, and we weren't planning on doing any more tree removal until we received a couple phone calls from some residents. And in your packet, you have some pictures of some trees that the manager and I went out and looked at. We did have active tree experts come back out and give us a bid on these 4 trees. Originally, it was just the Hovey Street tree. Then like a day or so later, we got a phone call about the Denison Street trees, which are in the pictures, they're dying. So tree experts looked at those trees on Denison Street and said they believe it has a maple borer in it, which is causing the tree to die. We did negotiate with them if we did approve all 4 removals, that they would reduce the price by $300. So my recommendation is the village contract with active tree experts for the price not to exceed $4,000 to remove the trees and stump the stumps.
Madam President, just a question for Mr. Brantley. Don, will we replace these trees?
We have not replaced any trees that we've removed in the last couple of years.
Mo?
We have the money in local streets? The money's there? In contracted services?
There is some money under contracted services, but...
Enough?
There's money under contracted services, but we are going to, there'll probably be an amendment come down in the future, because there are other things that apply to contracted services.
Joe?
Can those right-of-way PEG fees that we're acquiring be utilized for these purposes?
That's one of the things, because they are right away and we are maintaining the right of way with it. That's one of the things that I'm keeping track of. The other trees, some of those were in the right of way, not the ones in the park, of course, but some of the other ones were. And so I'm trying to keep track of those amounts.
I see, okay.
My only comment is I'm not for this, but I will vote for it because I know they need to be done. But my comment is we need to start thinking about tree replacement.
Right.
Because otherwise, we're going to be a village with no trees. So either we have to come up with some solutions, like perhaps other towns have done, or we're not going to be a pretty village anymore. That's
I'd
all
like
I'm
to see
gonna
us
say.
replace them on private property somehow, so that it's not in our easement, it's not over the water, it's not over the sewer, it's not under the electric, because that just creates more problems. Maybe we can put that on a future agenda to figure out a way to do that. Talk to Bob.
We talked about that raffle before. I remember that was kind of one idea.
Yeah, I would be in favor of exploring that as well. You know, a tree-lined street is the aesthetics of I'm trying not to choke on my cough drop, sorry. A tree-lined street aesthetically, really enhances the neighborhood, the village as a whole. So, and I know there's still a lot more out there, don't get me wrong, but, and there's one in my front yard that I don't even like, but, they're nice, but they do cause problems, so.
Yeah, but again, my argument always is that how do other towns have them?
Right.
Throughout the United States, towns have trees. They replace trees, and we seem to find it such a burden and such a job to have to maintain them. And like I said, it's not only enhances, it brings property values. If you have a town with no trees, then
But we did replant.
Who wants to live here?
We've done tree replacement programs. I did one with Joe Boland.
Right, but
We
that was
planted
years
over-
ago, Don.
It was, but we planted over 50 trees.
Right.
And a lot of those trees are now tearing up
The
sidewalks.
the thing with trees is they're a constant expenditure. Whether you're purchasing them, you're planting them, you're trimming them, you're replacing sidewalk because of them, they're getting in your sewer lines, you're removing them, you're replanting. If the money's there to do it, I mean, we can remove and replace trees if the funds are there. But you've got to strategically place trees and species of trees in the right location. Because if you plant a maple tree that's gonna grow 50 feet in the air, and then Edison comes through in 25 years, puts the big V in it, and then it gets diseased, then whose responsibility is to remove that tree? It's our responsibility.
And I understand all that, but somehow there's got to be some conversation that is a positive instead of always being the negative about trees.
I try not to bring negative to you.
I know. I know, Donnie. We've had this conversation before.
Many times.
I'm just saying. Joe?
How much does it cost to replace a tree? Obviously, this is the...
Depends on the caliber tree you get and the species. I mean, you can buy just a small little whip of a tree for $25, $30. You can spend $200, you can spend $800 if you want to have something spayed in.
I see, okay.
So it just depends on the caliber of tree and the species.
Okay.
Okay, so it's council's pleasure.
I'll make a motion to enter in a contract with Active Tree Experts to remove 4 village easement trees for a price not to exceed $4,000.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Helmut, supported by Frost. All in favor?
Aye.
Post same sign?
You can roll call vote on that?
Oh, yeah. Terry? Thank you, Mo. Yes.
Bailey?
Yes.
Helmut?
Yes.
Frost?
Yes.
Thank you, council.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Donnie. Okay, number 11, items removed the minutes. Joe?
Just in speaking with Eric today, he only had one minor thing. It wasn't even that big of a deal. Under new business last month, we talked about the left turn lane change in Glassby north of Burdick. And, when Chief was recommending it, he made the impression, the idea, as you're coming south, the speed limit drops from 50 to 25, and that was good justification why to leave the stop sign in place to ensure that those folks, A, slow down and something like that. And in the minutes, it read changing from 25 to 50 as an increase in amount, and Eric just thought what was meant at that time was 50 to 25, so he just thought that minor change might be okay to change it, the 25 to 50, change that to 50 to 25. That was it.
Was it at the meeting, so I have no idea.
Fine with me.
This is the southbound traffic.
Yeah, there was just a flip-flopping of those two numbers was the only thing. It was a minor thing that he thought kind of explains what the white chief was saying, coming down the hill is more of a concern versus coming out of town.
I think both the northbound and the southbound flow is significant,
Yep.
and we should track both of them.
Yeah, but in the minutes, it only referred to the one, and so Eric just thought, well, it kind of, but it was a Cliff Note version there.
So do we need to have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll support.
For a meeting you weren't at.
Motion by Helen, supported by Bailey. All in favor?
Aye.
Post same sign. Public comment? Manager and staff report. Let's start with Mike first.
That'd be you, Mike. You are Mike.
I have nothing further, thank you.
Donnie?
I have nothing.
All our big
Drew?
here, Mike.
Drew? You're kidding me.
I know, normally I...
Thank you, Drew.
Wow. Terry?
Just thank you again for your decision and moving on this quickly. I think it's going to be the right thing to do, and I appreciate that.
Thanks. Joe?
I only have a few items quick. The early evening AA group has moved out. Their lease was through the end of the month, but they have moved to a church over on Sasheball Road, effective the 25th, I think their note said on the door. The chamber and the DDA are swapping offices, as we know, and that is happening and going okay. September 1st is when their lease starts at a new location. Yes, Joe?
I just had a question about that. Where will the DDA committees then meet? That office was perfect for
We have
the rest of the, okay.
the community room and stuff.
Okay.
Yes. I sent letters out last month to the 5 or so residents on North Glassby that had parking in front of their home to give them a heads up that was going to be going away. I received one comment back, letter from a woman up on North Glassby that she just thought it was a little extreme to remove the parking. She thought it might have been better to have parking there certain times of day and no parking when it was needed. Obviously, that doesn't work too well because you were striping it. You can't, have both, I guess. But that was the only feedback that I received officially. And the only other thing, we've had a couple of insurance claims over the last few months. One was from a police radio that got damaged in the winter and lost. Insurance covers it. There was a vehicle that backed into the brick wall there on the parking area over here behind 24th Street. Again, insurance covers it. We didn't have any vehicle to pin that one for some recovery. But I just want to make you aware, so when we're spending $3,500 to replace a wall, that full expense is going to go into, say, the parking lot area. The $2,500 check we get because of our $1,000 deductible shows up under miscellaneous revenue. So sometimes these things look like we're overspending over here. Yes, each one of those is costing us $1,000 that we didn't plan for, but the full amount will impact, like the police budget. The radio is $3,500 or so, $3,200, $3,500. That full $3,500 is going to hit the police budget, but we're going to get a check, $1,000, $2,500, when we already received it from the insurance company. So in one sense, it looks like we're overspending over here, but a portion of that is already being refunded. It just can't show up in the police, so. We have one more that we're dealing with the tree and light pole incident behind the tap that's getting close. Working with Farm Bureau for that reimbursement. So just wanted to make that note.
Okay. Drew?
I lied, I actually
Too late.
Too late.
You had your chance.
I promise it's quick, but it is, I do want to make sure I mention this. The website, the redesign, the design has been approved, and we met with our website design committee. They gave us some feedback. We got that in. So now we are starting to move towards they're developing the site right now, and then we'll be working on the wireframe for that. So we'll be bringing that to the committee again to look at the structure of the site, and we're looking for later this fall for the launch date for that. And then with the, do you have a question for that?
Yeah, on that, will council have an opportunity to see the design and approve that? I know the committee looked at it, but is council going to take a closer look at that?
We didn't plan on having it be an approval item. We shared the designs with the DDA board. Now that I think about it, I do apologize. I should have included those in the packet for all of you to see. I know you've seen them, right. Sue's seen them. But you're right. I can share that information for you. I have them. But no, we didn't plan on bringing them for formal approval of the designs beyond that.
Okay.
But that could be done if you all desire.
Sure.
I mean, I guess, since the council has approved the contract, I mean, it's only fitting that the council takes a look at the product before it goes live.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Can we have it set up so that it shows on the screen there? Just go through it?
Yeah, we can. Yeah.
Before it goes live?
Okay. We'll bring that back for your next meeting.
Thank you.
And the one other thing, we haven't talked about in a little while, but the backflow prevention device inspections program. We have still been working on that, and we're just about done for this year. We're finally catching up, and the MDEQ should be happy with us. We've made a ton of progress. We've done a lot of inspections. We've accounted for cross connections in more than half of the village. It's not quite where the MDEQ is going to want us to be, but we have a plan to get where we need to be. And so we will be submitting that report to the MDEQ soon. We've still got some follow-ups to do from the information that we've gotten from the inspections that have been done, but we're doing well on that. So, it's kind of a background topic, but I do want y'all to know that
How many percentage or give me a number, how many problems do we have?
How many problems?
Cross connections.
Well, we have 162 known backflow preventers in the village. We've accounted for 53% of properties in the village, whether they have a known cross connection or a backflow prevention device on a cross connection or they don't. There are more that a lot of that 47% are residential, and they may not have responded to our mailer, so they will be in the following, as we move forward with this and later in 2018 and in 2019. Our goal is by 2020 to have information on all water customers in the village to know, whether they have a backflow prevention device or not, because that's information we didn't have before.
So those other 47%, are we thinking they're mostly sprinkler systems?
We're thinking those are mostly they don't have them, because there's also different categories. There's the high risk and low risk. The high risk ones we've looked at all of them already, and those are primarily industrial. So those have all gotten inspections. Some of them need re-inspections. High risk ones need to be re-inspected more frequently than low risk. But we have those, more well taken care of, as well as the commercial areas are more well taken care of, but residential in the past has not been as heavily looked at. It's a time-consuming priority. It's kind of expensive. So we're looking at doing that, over phases, but that is what the MDEQ wants, is that all water customers be accounted for with cross connections. So we have a plan for getting there. It will take some time, but it's progress. So I apologize. I said I was going to be short, but I just want to share that with you.
Thanks for taking that on, Drew.
We'll make you carry on. Okay, council comments. Joe?
First off, best wishes to our Oxford Wildcat students in the beginning of the new school year. I know there are some excited youngsters at my house, now cranky youngsters, as the first couple of days of school have been tiring. Also, thank you to our staff, Joe, Terry, Don, Drew, Mike, for all of the hard work that you continue to do to move our village forward. Job well done. Thoughts and condolences to the family of Senator McCain. Although I politically don't agree with him on many things, he is a true example of a public servant. He has given his life, or served his life as a combat veteran, as a statesman, presidential candidate, etc. So whether we agree with him or not, he should be remembered and honored for his contributions to our nation.
Mo?
We had a really good planning commission meeting this month. We did a lot of the things you saw tonight, the planning commission bylaws, the amendments to the zoning board. But we also discussed the redevelopment plan. We're not sure that's really something that's right for our planning commission, but we're looking at trying to find a way to be more proactive rather than reactive. So hopefully we're gonna have some changes coming up in the near future. There was a cable meeting last night. The cable, I was not able to attend. They did agree to go with attorney Elena Sullivan, I believe I got her name right, to review the new lease with Oxford Township for the property out at Seymour Lake Park for the new cable office. They're also going with attorney Watsa as far as a new contract with Charter for the PEG fees and trying to stop some of the problems we have had in the past. Joe, did you get my email? There was actually a response to one of your emails.
PFAS?
Huh?
About the PFAS?
Absolutely not.
No.
About water sampling?
No, that was it, the PFAS water sampling.
Was that in the same
Yes.
email?
Yeah.
Did you ever respond to that?
No, I did not. I'm still waiting to hear from Mr. Dawson. He was out of town. He does our thing over there, because the DEQ was the one in charge of the sampling. But yes, it's possible, I think, that they can perhaps do their own independent testing. We may have to just pay extra for it.
I just think the state has a black eye right now. And I think it would make a lot of people feel better if we had a second source, test the water, and hopefully come up with the same results.
I concur.
It seems like. Don, get right on there, right? I guess that's all I got.
Dave?
Well, I'm glad to see that water is being addressed in more than one way. And as long as I've been aware of what's been happening in the village of Oxford, water has been, if not number one, but right up there with important things. And if somebody should ask me, well, what's great about Oxford? One of the first things I would tell them is water. In Oxford, it's a nuisance to deal with water, and it's just a slogging job, but we get through it, and when we're done, we feel good about our water. And there are places where, I hate to say it, the people have cut corners in the state of Michigan with regard to water, and I'm just very thankful that the village of Oxford is not one of those places. Water is like number one priority, for me at least. So that's about all I got.
Okay. Have you got anything to report on from NODA?
No, I do not.
Okay. Mike, I was going to ask you, do you have anything to report from Youth Assistance?
No, I don't yet. Our first meeting is the 13th of September.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to report that Concerts in the Park was again a success this summer. We had some really great acts there. The DDA had their tech visit a week or two ago. He was very good, but I was disappointed because there was only 2 of the task force members there and 4 businesses that attended. And so I was in, one of the businesses is going out of town, or going out of business as of September 4th, so they won't even be involved. But he had a lot of good suggestions, answered a lot of our questions. It was kind of like a free flow of ideas, him offering suggestions and everything. There is a report that the DDA has on that. At Pollyann, there's minutes in the packet here, but they did approve 8 4-foot by 4-foot map signs to be put along the trail. They're really sharp looking. They also approved Pure Michigan. We've approved the paperwork to get started to be a designated or recognized through Pure Michigan, which is going to be really great for the Pollyann Trail, because Pure Michigan is such a marketing thing. Wood Trail, if anybody walks the Pollyann, is complete now. There's still a little bit of work that needs to be done, but it's passable now. And the other thing, they've got pictures, the DIA pictures are out on the trail, and I think all but one are all handicap accessible. So they're not hidden down the trail someplace. They're all usually at trailheads and that. They're very popular, and they're been received really well. And I want to wish everybody a safe Labor Day holiday. And with that, I'll
Make a
ask for
motion to adjourn at 7:57.
Support?
Okay, we have a motion by Helmuth, supported by Frost. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.